Hey everybody, welcome to another exciting edition of Behind the Keeper Screen. My name is Johnny Omaha, and today we've got a great guest today. It is PhantomNJ, also known as Rob. Rob, how are you doing?
Great, Johnny. How are you doing?
Oh man, this is fantastic. I'm so excited you could join us behind the Keeper's Screen, where you are actually behind the Keeper's Screen on the regular.
Yeah, been doing it for a long time too. But yeah, absolutely.
And you are doing something on Twitch right now, this Aftermath and Enemies Everywhere. Tell me about this campaign that you're doing.
So, a while back, I decided. Yeah, I have been running CNC for been a few years now, and I've been running games in other editions of D&D and such for years and years. And I was like, I do all these one shots and these short adventures and whatever. It's like, why am I reinventing the wheel every single time? Let's get a living campaign together where I can throw different adventures together, have different groups, have it all in the same shared world. I have multiple groups. So I've also done groups like one shots at GaryCon and other places where all the games that I do, as long as they take place in the world of Greyhawk, they are part of this campaign.
Oh, wow.
And the game that we talk about, the Aftermath and Enemies Everywhere, is this is the group that actually kicked off the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
It started in October of 2023 during virtual Greyhawk Con, and they're the group that, like, all right, when's the next session? And suddenly, we were off to the races, and we celebrated a year this past October. This is the first session since then.
Oh, wow.
The session in October was a 6-hour session because they wanted to do something special for the anniversary, and they asked me how long I could go. I was like, you don't want to ask me that because we'll be here all night. We decided on 6 hours, and the damnedest thing was, after 6 hours, one of them had to go, and it was a good thing because I could have kept going.
It's like, hey, I could do this all day, right? Is that what Captain America
I,
always
I
says?
oh man, it was like there was such an energy rush. It's like, I don't want it to end. I've got more. There's more. We can do more.
I love it. Well, that's that boundless energy that I think you're bringing to the table here as a castle keeper. So, Rob, why Greyhawk? So you mentioned that you've got this living campaign in Greyhawk. Tell me about your history with Greyhawk and why you've decided this is going to be your place, your playground, your sandbox, if you will.
So I started off with AD&D First Edition back in like 1980 or so. My cousin taught my brother and myself the game. And if you've played AD&D First Edition, you got the First Edition Player's Handbook. You've got all these spells. You've got Mordenkainen's Magnificent Mansion, Tensor's Floating Disc. I was like, all right, these are all obviously wizards. And then I found out there's this book called The Rogues Gallery, which had it's like, wait a second, they're all part of this one shared world. And then the I never saw the folio. I didn't know the folio existed, honestly, until about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the 1982, I think, the gold box set came out, and I was hooked. It was a world that was there was a political aspect to it. There was definitely the magic aspect to it. There was all these personalities. All the things from the game at the time were geared toward, if anything was named, it was part of the world of Greyhawk,
Yeah.
because the Forgotten Realms was kind of coming out in, I guess, Dragon magazines, which I wasn't collecting because
Mm-hmm.
I only had enough money for the books. So I was sucked in. It meant I had a world that I could play in
Yeah.
and use, and it just became my default world for all things. And
Yeah.
with Castles and Crusades, it fits so well
Yep.
into the world of Greyhawk. I mean, even Troll Lord Games Aired is an homage to Greyhawk. So it's like, all right, well, I'm part of the Greyhawk community. So being able to do Castles and Crusades and Greyhawk just seemed a no-brainer.
Absolutely. So, Phantom, tell me about the Greyhawk community, because you'd say you're a member of the community. I know it's a passionate community. Tell me what you can about the Greyhawk community. Where are they? Who are they? Who are the movers and shakers? What does it mean to be a part of the Greyhawk community?
So I mean, for me, in terms of the movers and shakers, I mean, I guess we have to start with Jay Scott, otherwise known as Lord Gazumba.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of the first people I got to know in the community. And it was through him that I got to know other people. I'd also spent some time doing Greyhawk, working Greyhawk online, going through the wiki there. But it really was Jay who first really got me into things,
Mm-hmm.
and started meeting other creators, other streamers. Eventually I was lucky enough to play in some of the games.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, he's the reason I'm a Twitch affiliate.
Wow.
It's a lot easier to reach the concurrent, the number of followers and the time limit, or the number of average viewers, when you've got somebody who pops in a 70-80 person raid on you.
Yeah. Those are good numbers, man.
Yeah, so I mean, Jay, I have a lot to thank Jay for, but the community, it just keeps growing, and I keep meeting so many people, and they're all awesome. It helps that Jay is very much a as if you're playing Greyhawk, it doesn't matter what game you're using for Greyhawk, how you're playing it. It's your campaign. He's interested in what you're doing with it. If you're interested in changes that you've made, things that you've tried.
Yeah.
So it brings a lot of good people, the better side of the community to it.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's we go to something like GaryCon.
Yeah.
Where I'll be attending. I think it's my 4th GaryCon this year.
Oh, very cool.
And I expect there's going to be. I'm going to between the Greyhawk community and the Troller Games community, there's going to be at least 75 to 80 people there that I know.
Oh, wow.
And at least 50 to 60 of those are going to be from the Greyhawk community, or that I've met through the Greyhawk community. They may be like loosely adjacent to it, but I've met because of them. And it's just wild to me. I don't know that I've known that many people that I've gamed with in the 35-40 years prior to me being a part of this community.
Yeah. Rob, what does it take to enter into the community? Is there like an initiation that has to happen, or do you just have to start making some cool Greyhawk content?
Honestly, for me, it started off with just watching the streams, being active in chat.
Mm-hmm.
It helps that if you're running games and creating content, obviously that helps. But if you're being active, then there's things like the fundraiser. Every year we do the St. Jude's fundraiser, which was it's coming up in February. It'll be the third full weekend in February this year.
Okay.
The weekend of like 21st or something like that.
So for people that don't know about that fundraiser, why don't you take a minute and kind of explain the fundraiser to folks that might be listening?
So we do an annual fundraiser for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, and there's a bunch of streamers who will be running games basically from Jay will probably kick it off on Thursday night, and we'll go through Sunday. And every single year we've had more streamers involved,
mm-hmm.
and we've raised more money. Last year, over the course of the weekend, we raised $26,200. We're looking to beat that again this year. So
wow, $26,000, over $26,000,
over $26,000.
And St. Jude is for children's cancer research, is it not?
Yeah, cancer, basically any illness where involving children, and basically it also they also provide for the parents to basically be able to be near the kids.
Oh wow.
So it's total care. It's something so that the kids are, they're getting the care they need. They're not on their own.
Hmm.
And I mean, it's my favorite charity.
Yep.
And being part of it each year, being able to run games. Last year the fundraiser ended up being a little bit earlier, and I wasn't going to be able to be there for the fundraiser itself.
Yeah.
So I ran games the weekend before the fundraiser to kick it off. Jay was nice enough to open the open the Tiltify link for it a week early,
Oh
so that
wow.
I could contribute. And yeah, it's every year it just seems to get bigger and bigger. So we take it as a challenge. This year we're looking to hit the next number. We just want to keep going because
Wow.
it just keeps going up.
So how does someone, obviously you can donate, but how does one participate in the online fundraiser? Like if I want to run games or play a game.
Well, anyone can run games. We have so it's one of those things where there'll be games where some of the we'll have a list of streamers that are running games. Um, we try to have a set so that we're making sure we're rating into each other. So
Gotcha.
there'll be like a featured streamer for each individual time slot.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they'll be the only streamer
Right.
running during that time slot
Right.
necessarily. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't, but we'll have a featured streamer. And the idea is you want to, get at least the featured streamers or everybody, rating into the other. So we keep paying it,
Yeah.
it forward.
Kind of like passing the
Next group
baton.
and just, yeah, as it were.
Yeah. Very cool. So it sounds like people could be watching, they could be chatting, and they could be donating on that stream coming up here in
Yes.
February.
Yes.
Wow. Very cool. So this game that you're doing now, it is in Greyhawk. And is this? Do you
Yes.
think this will be part of the charity stream, or do you think this will kind of be its own self-contained campaign, or what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, we're already the only thing we haven't figured out is when during the charity stream we're doing it, and I may run more than one game, but there'll be at least one game for this group during the fundraiser. I think I may try to run at least one more game. Sometimes it's a matter of helping fill a time slot.
Yep.
And then I need to make sure that I have one game that they're all able to make.
Yeah.
So, the couple of things at play there.
Man, it is. It's like a con, really. Like you got to manage the time and get the tables filled, and
in a way, I mean, the only difference here versus a con is, the con you're basically waiting for people to sign up for your games.
sure.
Because we do have they all met, or well, they all really honestly really I think pretty much everyone knew each other ahead of time, but the group got together during a con where they all just happened to sign up for the same, most of them signed up for the same game.
Yeah. Wow.
And it just worked.
Man, it starts with but a seed, a little small seed.
Yeah.
So where was your seed when it came to Castles and Crusades, Rob? Like, how did you get started? Because you said you were kind of into Greyhawk, which was kind of the first edition. So, I mean, there's a lot of time that passes between first edition and Castles and Crusades, but we know that Gygax DNA is connective tissue here. So talk to me about where did you enter the fray of Castles and Crusades?
So I mean, where I first heard about them was they've been a sponsor of Lord Gazumba's stream for a while. Probably about as long as I've been following his stream.
Which those streams
they also
are ridiculous, by the way. The Lord Gazumba streams
Oh,
are unbelievable streams.
They are. Yeah, it's yeah, I mean the legend the streams that he does, the informational streams are amazing enough. And then the games with the amazing terrain, which is absolutely fantastic, and I will get to experience that in person at Page 2 coming later this month. Which is
wow.
cool. But they've been sponsoring him. They've been sponsoring others, and one of the things that helped was during COVID, they put out the Player's Handbook. They're giving away the PDF for the Player's Handbook for free.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was a member of a another stream, streaming Discord community and Discord,
Sure.
and we were kind of bored on a Friday night, and I was like, why we should probably just like roll some dice and think about setting up a game. And the more I thought about it, I was like, th- this is great. I've got an idea. We got the PDF for all you need is the player's handbook. That's all the players needed.
Yep.
It's free. So we're gonna have a game. I'm gonna run a Castles Crusades game every Friday night. We're gonna call it Friday Night Crusades because that just rolls off the tongue.
Oh man, so good.
And the only barrier to entry is you need to be able to hear. You don't even need to talk. It helps if you can talk, but you need to be able to log onto Discord and be able to hear me. If you have to type, that's fine. Obviously, voice chat, being able to talk makes things quicker, but
yeah,
I was like, you can download the book for free. And I made it so that there is, they talk about West Marches style games.
Yeah.
This was sort of pseudo West Marches style where every week whoever showed up went. And I don't care, I probably drew the line that made sure there was at least 3 people going.
Yeah.
But 3 up to however many would go. It didn't matter what time you arrived. It didn't matter what time you had to leave. And it didn't matter if you couldn't make it every week. It's like if you missed 5 weeks, fine, whatever.
Yep.
It was basically show up when you can for as long as you can, and we'll just go.
That is the very definition of what a West Marches game is supposed to be about, by the way. Like that it's just this is the time, this is when the world's happening.
Well, the funny thing was, I had decided at the time, because I also wanted to make it not much work for me.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where I probably rushed in on my part a bit because I decided to start off with running the A series, the Castles Crusades A series, starting with Rising Knight A0.
Oh wow.
And it became, we were going into it, and the whole idea was we're going to have some fun. We're just going to roll some dice, visit a dungeon or two. I wasn't expecting much role play. It wasn't meant to be that kind. But sure enough, people came to role play, and suddenly I was getting questions about like gods of air, and I was like, I don't have answers for all this.
Yeah.
So I think we ended up getting to through A2, at which point I found a way to move the game to the world of Greyhawk.
There you go.
They basically went through a portal and suddenly they found themselves, and suddenly it became a world of Greyhawk thing. Because I was like, yeah, I need to, and they were all world of Greyhawk. They were mostly Greyhawk.
Everyone was chomping at the bit for Greyhawk.
So it made life easier for all of us. So the weird thing is, 40 years of doing, running games, and I still get imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
You're still like, it was the game good enough? Did they really enjoy it? Or are they just telling me, whatever?
Right.
When people start showing up week after week, despite the fact that they're under no obligation to, and start telling you every single week that they're not going to be there till whatever time, they're going to have to leave early. I was like, guys, it's okay. You don't need to tell me ahead of time. You don't. It's like, it's okay. It's fine. And they kept showing up week after week. There came a point where I had every single week at least 7 people. There was weeks where I had as many as 12 people running.
Holy cow.
It wasn't a party. It was a raid.
Yeah.
It's like, if you play some MMOs, it was a raiding party running through these dungeons. So, but the beauty of Castles Crusades is it's really easy to just, it's really easy to move combat along quickly.
Yep.
There was a lot of hand waving. We had the running joke when somebody showed up at like an hour and a half in. It was like, well, they were just down the hall.
Yeah, there they are. Look at that.
They'd fallen behind a little. I was like, and it was funny because suddenly they were making excuses for each other why they weren't there yet. I didn't have to say anything. They were making excuses for each other why they weren't there yet. It just like all kinds of, but this went on for, I think I ran it. I think we were a little over 2 years before I handed over the reins to someone else because I needed a break and I needed to do some concentrating on some streaming stuff and such. But it was amazing, and the support from Troller Games was fantastic. They did giveaways for us for the first and second anniversary. They gave a bunch of stuff to my players and me. I couldn't have asked for more. It was fantastic.
Well, and you're still doing you're still doing giveaways on the stream.
Yeah. Well, now my stream is officially sponsored by Troller Games.
All right.
Which is really cool. Which is why I'm happy to keep running CNC. As a matter of fact, looking, some of the players here have also played in the Friday Night Crusades game. I think the Friday Night Crusades game, when all was said and done, we had 27 or 28 different players playing around 33 total characters.
Wow.
Like we had a board. We did have a couple character deaths, and we had a couple characters switch out to somebody else when we were for a while we were like lacking certain roles,
right.
And somebody decided that they wanted to create a character to fill that role.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was wild.
Well, and the thing I'm noticing, especially you talked about just these massive player sizes. I mean, even the game that's playing behind us here, Aftermath and Enemies Everywhere, like 6 players, Rob, at the table. I mean, and you guys are playing virtually, is that right?
Yes, we are playing virtually.
Okay, so you're playing virtually. You got 6 players at the table, but I mean, 6 is almost small potatoes for some of the numbers you were talking with before. But still, I mean, that's quite a large party size. How, as a keeper behind the screen, how do you manage these larger player sizes and still keep the game going?
So, funny story. For me, this is old hat. I went from as a kid and being able to only count. It's for a long time after my cousin taught us the game. For a while, it was just my brother and me playing because my cousin lived. You had to drive to get there, and we were still kids, and so we would see him every once in a while and whatever. But it ended up being basically a game my brother and I played by ourselves, and then we have like a couple of friends might play, and only for a while. People their interests would fade in and out. So I ended up finally had a couple friends from high school that I played with, but even then it was a small group. We would play they played multiple characters.
Sure, yeah. I
got to college and I joined a fraternity, and between friends of ours plus my fraternity pledge class, we were playing with our regular group was 7 people playing 7 or I think it was actually might have been 8 people playing 10 characters total.
Wow.
And our largest party was 10 players playing 13 characters total.
Holy cow.
And this was my regular experience in 2E, in person, where we didn't have miniatures, so it was completely theater of the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 6 players, I can do that in my sleep.
So let's say you're sleeping. How do you do it in your sleep? So for people that haven't gotten to the point that you have, that are like that can kind of spin all the plates, what advice would you have for castle keepers out there that are wanting to increase their table size but just don't know how to do it, or they're worried about being overwhelmed with the player count?
So one of the things you need to do in terms of a larger table, you're going to want to make sure that you know how to keep things moving quickly, and figure out what works best. Like right now, we're doing rolling individual initiative each time, and I'm a little concerned that it might be slowing things down. it's right now it seems like it's okay, but
Mhm.
I might want to revisit that again later. But does group initiative work better for you? Um, Most importantly, to me, one of the most important things is how often you call for a roll.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I mean, everybody wants to be able to roll everybody wants to be able to roll dice every so often. Um, but rolls to me are something that should happen when there is something actual valuable in the roll.
Right.
If it's something that the character should be able to do normally, no problem. What are you rolling for? It's just all you're doing is taking up time. For me, it's a matter. Normally, for me, it's a matter of either it's an actual difficult skill check that they need
Right.
to make,
Right.
or it's a matter of do they get something extra? How what for me, roles are like be a variation. If I want there to be, if there's a level of information that they can get
Mhm.
from, lots of extra info versus just a set yes and no or
Yep.
something like that.
Yep.
Set, it's it will impact whether or not I decide to call for a roll. If there's nothing extra, it's like, and it's something they'll probably know, I'm not going to. I want their class to mean something. I want their background to mean something.
Sure.
You know, I don't feel like things that they should know should not require a roll.
Yeah. Which is great
Um,
because I see so many people like wisdom check, wisdom check, wisdom check, wisdom check is where you see a lot of games going where and that you kind of err the other way where you're like I look at the player's background, I look at the character's background rather, I look at the character's skills, I look at the class of the character and let that kind of dictate whether or not you're calling for a roll.
And I think part of the problem with the wisdom check, because the wisdom check is, for if you're playing in D&D, and I don't remember, I think it might have started with 3E, third edition. I didn't play or run third edition. I
Yeah.
kind of missed that in period. I went from second, and then I wasn't playing much at all, so I didn't bother with third.
What was all perception,
And then
perception check, perception check, perception check.
checks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Perception checks are abused.
Yeah.
It is like the catch-all check. And here's the thing, and one of the things, and part in 5e, for 5e, one of the problems, the reason they have perception checks so much is because everything became so homogenized
Yep.
that it was like the only tool you had in a lot of cases.
Sure. Like a hammer.
Uh,
Everything's a nail. Everything's a perception check.
yeah, we have when all the only tool you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
But in C&C, you've got the different races with varying varying abilities. You have more than one type of vision. You've got twilight vision, what do you call it, dark vision, deep vision.
Yep.
So they're not all the same thing. They're not all going to return the same type of information. You've got things like the ability to listen for
Mhm.
better listening for some of the races.
Mhm.
Elves, half elves, or at least the half the elven lineage half elves,
Mhm.
and I think gnomes are the other one.
Yes. Yep.
You've got the half orc sense of smell. Use their senses. What do they smell? What do they?
Mhm.
To me, it's more important that you're able to give each of the characters a place to shine. And the problem with wisdom, making everything a wisdom check, is that you're either forcing everybody to take wisdom as one of their prime attributes,
Yep.
or you're otherwise other be suboptimal.
So Rob, I'm glad you talk about optimal, suboptimal, super optimal, everybody having to take a certain stat. What's your belief when it comes to min-maxing characters? I mean, like you're running these huge parties. I mean, are you dealing with these characters that are super min-maxed, which means they're like super optimized and they could basically do all this crazy stuff? Or do you do any limitations for character creation, or do you just kind of let the dice do what they may?
I'm very much let the dice do what they may. actually, let's put a pin on that part.
Yeah.
Particular one, because we need to talk about dice rolling and such. But one of the joys of playing Castles Crusades is that they're really the only real ability that you have to min max is your attributes and choosing your prime.
Yeah.
I mean that, and again, it's a matter of you've got your class prime, and actually, I should say there's two parts to it. There's choosing your prime other than your class prime, and then there's choosing where you're putting your stats.
Yeah.
Because you have a choice. You can pick the most optimal primes for your class and put your best stats there, so that the things that you're going to do, you can be really really good at them. Um, or you can use your your primes, and then put your best stats elsewhere to help minimize a bit the effect of having that having that more punishing attribute check.
That's
for
so
for
funny,
secondary
Rob,
attributes.
because honestly, until this, I had never challenged my own preconception about min-maxing in games. To now that you're
Mhm.
walking me through this, I'm like, well, duh. You really can't. You really can't min-max in Castles and Crusades, because it's not like this combination. You've seen the TikToks, you've seen the YouTube shorts
Mhm.
where they like short circuit Dungeons and Dragons and have like a total party kill in like turn 2 or whatever. The guy's like, I could fly, and then I do this, and then da 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 da, and I could do it infinite times. Um, yeah, there isn't really that. You make a really good point.
Yeah, there's not much. I mean, it's like if you want to kill things really quick at the start, at low levels, be a fighter. There,
Yeah,
because nothing is going to kill mobs faster than a fighter. Between weapons, if you min max your, if you put your primary stats, if you put your best stat into strength, assuming that your best stat has some bonuses,
yep,
you've got your weapon specialization, and it's the only class that gets a +1 bonus to hit at level 1.
boop.
That's already +2, plus whatever modifier you have for your strength, for in terms of what you call it, in terms of to hit. You're going to hit
Yeah,
more often than anything else.
yeah,
So I mean, that's there's the strategy to how you want to handle your stats,
right,
and where you want to put your best stats. Because here's the thing: if you decide, this is where the idea, and this is, to me, this is very important. It's one of my favorite parts of Castles and Crusades, and me going more rules light. The more I go, the more rules light I like to get.
yeah,
Is the idea that Castle and Crusades, you are not tied to what's on your character sheet,
mm,
and it's the number one thing that I've taught many. I've probably taught around 50 different people to play the game, or maybe taught them is not necessarily the correct term, but I've introduced
there you
Castle and
go.
Crusades to probably at least 50 different people over
Yeah,
the last 5 years. Run their first session to them, and the number one thing I always tell them right off the top of that, and I don't care what games they've played before. If they played nothing before, fine. If they
yep,
played any edition of D&D, great. Whatever, it doesn't matter. Um, I don't want them to feel beholden on to what is on their character sheet. Try the things. Now, you have the attribute checks, and with the way the attribute checks, they've got the protection so that people are not, or not overshadowing other classes.
right,
So, for primary and secondary, as far as those checks, or adding your level, I should say, adding your level to the check.
yep,
But other than that, there is nothing saying that you can't try something.
right,
Do the heroic thing. Go. It's funny. You were just talking about the characters, the TikToks and things of people doing this massive damage, TP, kill the BBEG in one thing. We're not we're not going that wild,
right,
but at the same time, I want my characters to be heroic. I'm a big believer in having better than average attributes. You'll never catch me running a 3d6 down the line game. For those who like it, awesome. That's great. Enjoy it. I will never yuck someone else's yum and how they play. But for me, for my personal game, I want these to feel like more than just your commoner who decided to suddenly pick up a sword and go
right,
out.
right,
These are people who had something to them to start with, I do max HP at first level.
Yep.
Because and it's funny to me. The main benefit of that is I get to throw harder stuff at them earlier. The more HP they have, the better. The sooner I can get out of the okay. You're going to face another 10 goblins, 5 orcs, and blah blah blah. That you can only do so much of that before it really gets repetitive. But I want them to try the things. I want them to try to jump on the table, to leap over the table, to attack the person if they want to.
Right.
Go and swing from the chandelier. Do something interesting. I'll find a way to roll, and I'll tell you ahead of time what might happen if you fail, so they can make an informed decision.
Sure.
But I'm not going to tell them not to do it. You want to jump off the balcony and try to land on the guy. I'll tell you I'll tell you what you're going to be rolling, and I'll let you make that decision. But I'm not going to stop you. Do the thing.
I
Do
love
all
it.
the things.
I love it. That heroic action. I love that. The more I talk with Castle Keepers, I love that this idea of heroic keeps coming up in these conversations, and I just think that's really cool to hear you kind of say the heroic action. Heroic action now aside, now that we've talked about it, how do you balance doing the heroic action versus the people like the bard trying to steal or pickpocket when there is a rogue or thief in the party? Like, how do you balance the class that the classes don't step onto each other while still being respectful of the heroic action?
If they're trying to use a class skill that their class doesn't have, but another class does have, it's simply a matter of they can attempt it, but they don't get to add their level to the roll.
Okay.
So they will be as good at it at first level, at 10th level, as they were at first level.
Yeah.
No better.
Because there's an an optional rule that's like, just can't do it. You just can't do it. So you like to rule where you do it, but without the bonus.
Yeah, because it's funny. I can pick a lock. I've never been trained to pick a lock.
Yeah.
But a basic lock. Like the bathroom doors or stuff where it's just a little little hole.
Yeah,
I learned how to pick that lock because somebody got somebody accidentally closed the door.
Yep.
With the lock, had actually accidentally turned the thing. I needed to get into the bathroom.
Oh yeah.
And it's so I can pick extremely basic lock.
Yep.
It gets really really quickly, and this is what challenge level is for.
Yep.
It's what you're adding to it is going to make sure that a lock, a first level lock is fine. A lock with a challenge level of 6 or 5 or 6. Somebody who doesn't have a lock picking skill is not going to be able to pick that lock.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They need to be trained how to pick a lock that's that difficult. They will get to a point where that's when you start using challenge levels and bringing up the difficulty so that it requires the class that has it, and it's their time. It's their time to shine. So at first level, classes can kind of run over each other a bit because at most you're losing a 1, an additional 1 because you're not adding your level. But as things progress, and it's also to the point where I also make it so that like a 10th level rogue, I'm not going to have a 10th level rogue roll to pick a challenge level 1 lock.
Right. It's
why. They're at this point they're an expert lock picker. They don't need to be doing it for something that low level.
Right.
They can do that in their sleep.
I love it. So when you're sitting behind the Castle Keeper screen, Rob, what are you doing to kind of prep and get ready for a game like what we're about to see after this kind of commercial break behind us?
So for me, one of the things that I have, and this particular session was, I tend to run a rather sandbox campaign.
Yeah.
There's a story, and these adventures tend to be the adventure itself is more or less preset. So what will end up happening is that it's more sandboxing the idea of what they do and what they decide, how they decide they want to handle things impacts what's going to happen next. I've had campaigns where, it's an adventure literally every week. And the Friday night game was like that after a while, where the party could go wherever the heck they wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because we were playing every week. It wasn't a streamed game. I didn't have to worry about that. But here, I don't necessarily know how the party's going to decide to handle things. So I'll have a number of encounters set up, and depending on how they want to do things, where they decide to go. And this came up during the we were talking about the 6-hour stream.
Yeah.
This began because they ended up doing a bunch of stuff that I wasn't expecting, and it was great. I was like, okay, I know I have the encounters that I want to have happen.
Yep.
And then I've got some other stuff just in case. The encounters that they ended up having were all role play based, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I listen, I go with what they have, and once they meet somebody, if it's somebody that I think is worth noting, I'll note down who I decide, who they met.
Yep.
And maybe a note or two about what they talked about. Sometimes I'll rely, because I've got one of my players is very good on note taking. He'll post the aftermath,
the recap, and you're like, "Thank you, I needed that one."
And so if I forget anything, I can normally ask, or I can always go back and watch the stream.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure if there's anything interesting about a particular NPC interaction.
Yep.
I'll note that, especially if it's somebody that they respond to, because
they're.
You're talking about advice for new what do you call it, new CKs or new GMs.
Yeah.
You have to resist the urge to over prepare.
Oh my gosh.
What's going to happen is what's going to happen is the players are going to do something you don't expect. And
every time.
And so you need to be able to react to it, because I'm the worst. I'll be honest with you. I abhor railroads. Now, if we're playing a preset adventure, or if we're playing a definitive one shot, there's an understanding that there's going to be something of a railroad, because this is the adventure at hand. That this is what we're playing.
And it's a mutual understanding for the whole table. It's not just an understanding between
it's a social it's a social compact.
Yes,
and that's fine. But generally speaking, if for like a long-term campaign, if I feel my character's being railroaded into something, the harder you push, the more I'm going to rebel. And it's like, because if I don't feel that it's something if it's something I don't feel my character would do, if it's something my characters would be up for, oh, that's fantastic.
That's choo all aboard, baby.
Unfortunately, I sometimes it's just, no, this needs to happen. It's like, well, no, it really doesn't. So it's one of those things where I'm very big on making sure that I don't push them to do something. I let them decide what they want to do, and I'll react to it. But the problem with the over preparing, the other issue with over preparing really is it's very easy to have this wonderful vision for an NPC. And the party has no reaction to the NPC.
They're like, meh, next. I worked on this guy for 3 days.
About the party goes into a tavern, and the DM does this wonderful explanation of this wizard sitting in a corner, and how dark, deep, and mysterious he is. And they're like, well, is there anyone else in the bar? There's the goblin. There's a goblin sitting over there. His name's Sam Sporkle. And it's like, they all want to talk to Sam.
They're like, what up, Sam? You're like, but the wizard! But the wizard!
The most interesting goblin in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. So it's I love it, Rob. Well, that's fantastic advice to new castle keepers. Don't over prepare, because you are going to be thrown curveballs all the time. So when it came to Aftermath and enemies everywhere, you said it's you're running kind of an adventure, so there's only so much preparing you can do. And I gotta admire this game. So this first stream goes for about 4 hours. It's great to have on in the background of something you're doing while you're doing other stuff. Lord Gazuma's actually streaming right now. That's hilarious. And this is a really interesting adventure because you really do a good job setting up the kind of the political intrigue that I think Greyhawk can be known for if you those are the kind of games that you're into. But there's definitely the layers there if that's something that you are looking to explore. And I think you really do a great job setting it up with these players that kind of get inducted into this almost kind of, I don't know if it's the CIA or the FBI or these secret agents, maybe it's MI6. But for the king, they kind of become the king's kind of, I don't know, what would you call it?
Well, it's been building for a year.
Mm.
So a little background on the party. So far, all of the characters that I've had in this campaign have all been, or at least all the player characters, have all been part of this group called the Company of the Sundered Shield. It's an adventuring guild. It has a history in the world of Greyhawk. Actually, it has a history in the Kingdom of Nyron, where the adventure takes place.
I'm going to move you over so we can see the 6 players. I had you covering up one of your players here, so I'm moving you over a little bit.
Yeah. So it's and this is the Company of Sundered Shield was not my idea. This was I'm not sure if you're familiar with Carlos Slicing. Carlos is a fantastic content creator. He's written so many adventure modules. He's amazing with regards to knowledge of the world of Greyhawk. I'm on his Patreon, and this is, he puts out content for Greyhawk content for his Patreon members to things like different NPCs and different bits of information. Company of Sundered Shield was something he came up with. I was like, this is great. It takes place where I need it to be.
Oh, wow.
They're where I need to be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brand new, it's basically a company that's being revived, an adventuring company being revived. So these characters were like getting in on the ground floor. And this whole situation's been building up through the first years of adventures.
Wow.
In the adventure preceding this, because this is talking about aftermath, in the last 6-hour session, the 6-hour session that preceded this, they were there for, they had already had an adventure where they ended up rescuing the crown princess, though they didn't realize it was her at the time.
Mm-hmm.
They were in the capital city for something else. They ended up finding out that, or they ended up realizing that there was a potential jailbreak happening. And the jailbreak was for a witch that they had put in prison.
Oh my gosh!
In the very first, they had captured in the very first adventure.
Wow! So you really tied it all together here. Yeah, you're really tying it all together.
This has been a year. This has been a year in coming. At the end of the adventure, they were they weren't able to get to the witch before she escaped with the help of her sisters. They ended up fighting a whole bunch of demons in the streets of the capital city.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, elsewhere off screen, the king and queen were being assassinated.
Ba 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 ba.
And now suddenly they've got the crown princess who wasn't originally supposed to be the heir. That's another part of the story.
Mm-hmm.
But she's now the heir. She's now on the verge of being named queen, and she needs people she can trust, because one of the other things that they've been dealing with was the kingdom has been struggling for 30 years or so, and there's been unrest. There has been shipments of aid to different areas have been going missing, and somebody has been fomenting dissent. So they've been trying to track that down in the middle of all this, and things are coming to a head really quickly.
Well, let's listen in a little bit on the game, and I'd love to kind of listen to a little bit of this and then kind of get your reaction to what's going on or what you're thinking. So I'm not too sure exactly where we are, so let's take a look and listen. We might be before or after what you just said, so let's hear what we got.
You see Liam's hand go from the chair to her shoulder, which she actually flinches at momentarily before looking up and realizing that he's there, and she settles back down. and she waves his hand away. It was the sight was more gruesome than I can bear to describe. Um,
So here
but
here you are, kind of working as a castle keeper often does in the realm of the NPC, and it sounds like you've got a couple different NPCs that are interacting with each other. So Robert, tell me about how do you approach this NPC? This isn't written out word for word. So how are you going out? How are you trying to paint this picture? What's going on in your head right now?
so for me, what because of the fact that I am admittedly terrible with doing voices, and I have a very limited set of voices that I can do,
Mm-hmm.
and I tend not to do it for here because they're more voices that I would do as a player character because I can be consistent with them.
Mm-hmm.
But like here for me, it's more about temperament. It's more about making sure that I'm trying to be, and I actually was struggling with this on stream because she's now effective. She hasn't been crowned yet, but she's effectively the queen. She's the power in the realm. So I was like trying to struggle with keeping the royal we
Ah,
going
gotcha.
in the middle of all this, and I'm like trying to make sure that I play their current emotion level, who they're supposed to be, their temperament at the time, and the kind of energy level. Like
Yeah.
there's another NPC later on who has a very different feel a very different feel to him.
Yes.
And so I try to that's how I normally differentiate because again, I can't do a lot of voices, especially not when they're all mostly humans or you know
Yep.
uh even demi-humans like or elves and such. It's hard to come up. I can't do accents to
Mm-hmm.
save my life. Oddly enough, my all my dwarves sound like they're from Texas.
Well, hey,
I don't know how that happened.
hey, but it
I don't
happened.
have Scott. I don't have Scottish dwarves. I have Southwestern dwarves. It's a thing.
They're just so charming. It's just so
Um,
charming. Well, that's pretty cool. But I do think you really captured the essence, especially in this scene, of this character that's kind of lost, even though you were maybe feeling it personally, where you're like, I can't track the we. But I thought it really conveyed really well as far as this character had just lost their parents, and she's
mhm.
grieving, but then also has to be crowned, and it's like this is all happening, and I felt that with each of these scenes.
I
Maybe we,
appreciate that.
yeah,
That's
maybe we jump ahead a little bit and we kind of see what's going on here around the 1 hour 25-minute mark. Let's go ahead and unmute, see what we got.
I am not that cruel, regardless of how many
Dogs you've killed?
animal amounts I've killed. Oh, so how
Oh,
many?
they were just talking
I,
about losing their horses or something, right?
so yeah, there's the joke. One of the real original creators of some of the AD&D first edition stuff used to be a regular guest, the late Len Lakofka, who basically did all the stuff for the Lendor Isles. He's got a number of modules to his credit as well
Mm-hmm.
for AD&D in the world of Greyhawk, and he and I had a very similar view on the first edition AD&D Cavalier. The big thing is, what do you do about the damn horse?
Oh yeah,
So we were
kill
talking
it.
about we were talking because when I think the paladin was talking about the fact that he was on the verge of being able to get his paladin mount, and that was kind of came up. So there was another adventure that one of the players, I think it was the Antiquitous, who's playing Leaf in
Mm-hmm.
here. Um, there was another adventure that I ran where there was they were on mounts trying to basically riding, and they got ambushed, and there was one person on one mount. Actually, there was a bunch of people on mounts, and one mount had two people on. So I rolled a die first to find out which of the people or which of the mounts and their riders were targeted, and it happened to be the one where it was two people on the mount. So then I rolled to see whether or not it was one of the two people or the mount. Gave him 33% chance of each. And of course, it was the mount that got taken out.
No.
And one attack, and I felt because there was the one person who was actually kind of attached to their mount. I felt bad, but I also don't fudge dice rolls.
That's right. The dice tell the story.
And he's been teasing me about it ever since that. Because I think they were both like really, like playing gnomes or something.
Yeah.
Might be a halfling and a gnome. I think they were like riding a war dog or something like that, or
Oh, that's funny.
a warhound. I don't know. It just, but yeah, it just their mount got killed. And it's like, okay.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. All right, let's see where we're at now.
And you said 300 for the the heal light wounds.
Oh, this was
Yes.
great. So this was I want to let our viewers watch this. This is a fantastic shopping experience here.
Scout actually will take 2 of the cure serious if you're open to that, Rob.
Sure. Hold on a second.
That was what I was going to look at as well.
Yeah, so they're 700, and if we got 20% off, that's
560.
560.
That's for the pure critical.
That's for
Or-
serious.
Okay.
Is there anyone at any of those temples that can create good
Oh,
berries
hold on.
instead?
Critical is actually cheaper. I'm sorry. That's 500. They actually
And here's where we
have
found out that there was a
serious at
problem.
Oh, is that where did it start to like click? Like, oh, this is a lot of
Well,
healing.
There's a misprint in the. It looks like there's a misprint in the 10th printing of the
Oh, no!
Player's Handbook.
The new
Or
one?
not the Player's Handbook. There's a misprint in, I think it's Monsters and Treasures.
Yeah.
Of the new printing, where wherever it is that they have the value of the different potions.
Yeah.
They reversed the serious versus critical.
Oh, jeez.
Because it should be. It should be heal light, heal. It used to be
Yeah.
cure light, cure serious, cure critical.
Yep.
Well, it's still heal light, heal serious, and heal critical, except for the fact that the pricing for the serious and critical got switched.
Oh, whoops.
So I figured that out really quickly. But yeah, no, this is they were able. I'm okay with them buying healing potions from the from the church.
Yeah, it was from that's the thing I loved. It was with the character. Like they actually used their character relations, and this wasn't just some Joe Schmo shop like Joe's potion stand.
And yeah, and part of it was they were given something to let the shopkeepers know that they have they get a discount on behalf of the crown. They're acting on behalf of the crown. But I also limited it. You have to be in a major city. You're not going to go into a small town and be able to get these things.
Yeah.
I mean they might be able to, depending on which temple it is. But it's I like being able to give them healing potions because we have a cleric. There's a cleric in the party. There's also a primal druid in the party.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to feel like that they have to be heal bots.
Yep.
They can do other things. I want him to be able to use bless, prayer, all the good buff spells.
Yep.
I don't want to be limited to just heal.
Yep. Just like a dog, like a dog having to heal.
Yeah.
That's fun. And then we'll zip ahead to there's really only one. It was kind of a big combat, or it was like a combo combat here that happened here at the end of the session. Where here we go. We started off, were they ogres, or do you want to set this one up for me, Phantom?
So there's
some stuff down here.
They were trying to find out. There's a couple things going on. One, this was an abandoned, what they thought was believed to be an abandoned monastery, had been destroyed years ago. There was the ruins, and there had been seen activity. So they were asked to investigate the activity. They saw the structure down to the lower left, and they knew that the ogres were there. They were able to sneak up thanks to a silent spell. Sneak up to where they could get a view of the ogres. They managed to sneak. A couple of them managed to sneak to that structure. They found that there were demons in this, low level demons in the structure, paralytes, which freaked them out. But they managed to get past that, and they eventually were able to sleep one of the ogres.
Mm-hmm.
And the other ogre came up, and they were able to down the ogre. They also were able to do some magic stuff to keep the paralytes from coming out of the structure. There's a couple of spells like, all right, here's this. The only thing I regret about this session is I lost track of time just a little bit, and we got to this combat a lot later than I wanted to. They took care of the ogres.
Yep.
That's when they realized that there's something wrong with the rest of the people in the structure.
Yeah, which I thought played very well. And what was really cool too is because not only was that played well, we got this interesting thing going on with the players, and then behind it all, one of the classic monsters in role-playing history.
Yeah, gotta love me a succubus.
That's right. That's right. So how do you thread the needle when it comes to a succubus? Because things can get off the rails rather quickly when you got the succubus because of the nature of the succubus. So how do you kind of keep that all where it's going to be? But it's the nature of the succubus.
The funny part of it is they decided our paladin is not very worldly.
Yes.
We call it he's Dirty Dwarf in Discord. But he plays Sanius. Sanius is a paladin of Saint Cuthbert. He is again not very worldly, and he decided that this we call it this woman was beautiful. He was very 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 taken with her. Now here's the problem: evil creatures can't touch a paladin.
Yes.
So I suddenly had Sanius right where the succubus would have wanted a already willing victim who she hadn't even really charmed yet, and she can't touch him. And I was in the middle of getting ready to have the succubus kiss him. I was like, wait, no. She would know. She would know what he, she knows what he is. It's like, no, she can't touch. Damn it.
Here, let's listen in and see what's going on.
All right. 10.
Oh, so we've rolled initiative at this point here. So we're doing.
Oh yeah.
So let's rewind just a tad.
Spear that goes on a string across the room.
I need to check something really quick before.
Someone who's really a righteous person would be going, so forward with me.
And you're double checking what's the succubus gonna do here, in behind the scenes, or what is it that you're looking up right now?
It's great when they
Robert?
kind of add something as an ability, and don't really. Oh yeah, I think I was checking one of her abilities because I remembered what her primary thing was.
Yep.
I forgot to check what all of her different spells were, and I think I had to remind myself of what was it, glamour, and one of her other abilities. I had to make sure that I understood exactly what they did. So because I needed to find if there was another way that I could get him.
Yeah.
To turn on the party.
That's funny.
Or take him out, or even just neutralize him.
There you go. But the thing I love about it, as a good castle keeper should, you wanted to do it following the rules of the monster. You know what I'm saying? Not just a gotcha move.
I'm very big on player agency, so I'm very careful with the kind of thing. If I know my players here. They all know what a succubus is capable of, more or less. It may vary from rule set to rule set, but they understand what she is, and again, he pretty much knew what she was when he decided to kind of offer himself to her.
But what a grand
it's like,
slam. I mean, like we talk about the touch, we talk about like spiking the football and getting the touchdown on this. But I mean, like from a role play standpoint, from a character standpoint, like that is the perfect play in this scenario is that you get the
it's fantastic.
I know, isn't it amazing? You get the paladin, cannot be touched by evil. Oh, succubus, the very definition of evil. And now we've got this power struggle going on where it's just a masterful stroke.
Yeah, and then meanwhile, again, like I said, I ended up kind of being lucky in a sense because we were a lot later here than I wanted to be.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have been able to make this even more of a combat than it ended up being. So one of the I think it was either the mage or the primal druid threw a web and basically stuck the other two to the to the throne that they were or the altar that they were up on while while the succubus was doing her thing.
Yeah, because she had a whole legion of charmed individuals around her. Yep.
Yeah, and really the whole thing with the six behind that they walked past was to just give that, okay, this is weird.
Yeah, creepy.
Give that creepy, yeah. Give that creepy vibe.
Yeah. Well, so it ends as it always should, that evil is vanquished here, and what do they get this? Do they cleanse this area, or where do they end off here for this session?
So they with the session they basically had they vanquished the succubus. They eliminated, because it turns out that the people that were there weren't good guys. they were actually priests of Hexdor, which is an evil god in the world of Greyhawk,
which gave full license to kill. It was like, oh, these guys, dunzo.
Yeah. It was so they took care of that. Now it's a matter of, this is going to have implications. I mentioned that one of the things that was requested was for them to check to see how damaged the area was.
Mm-hmm.
Can new structures be built upon it, or has the ground been destroyed as well? Is it could a new thing arise? Because this is going to have consequences. Won't be anytime soon.
Yeah.
But this is going to have implications later on. I've got plans for this particular area.
Yeah.
And it'll have a later effect.
Mm.
And then we didn't get around to it, but next up they're going to need to report back both to the NPC that sent them on the quest, because the queen had sent them to this particular NPC, because she was in need of, she was looking for more advisors, and it happened to be an elf who is well versed in the politics of the kingdom. So
that was a phenomenal roleplay experience. That if that's probably my highlight of this show. I need to get timestamps. We're getting better and better every time we do this behind this keeper screen. But that was, so when people are watching this, that roleplay interaction is fabulous as you walk into this military encampment and you're seeing these elfish soldiers, like the elf soldiers, I guess, doing their routines, and then it was just so well done. It was a really, really cool roleplay encounter.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And he's and it's great because he's one of the better documented NPCs for that area in terms of published materials.
Yeah.
So and he's been around for a while. So he one of the sources even mentions he's a great resource. So I wanted to find a way to bring him in, not just be somebody that they go to randomly. I want them to be a reason why they'd be interacting with him more often. And part of the idea with the company is because the kingdom has suffered so badly from war, and it for a long time was on the verge of bankruptcy, and they don't have the manpower to do all the different patrols because it's a large kingdom. It's a very large kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
they don't have the military forces required to keep the peace everywhere. So basically they're looking for heroes. They need heroes willing to do the things that they can't do. And this is the NPC Geliflare, is he's somebody who's been around for a while. He's been involved in the politics of it. He wasn't necessarily a fan of the Queen's grandfather, from a political standpoint, but he also understands what's happening. So he's got his own thing to. He's always had his own little troops. Now they're building up because they need to be able to protect their area right off a trading route.
And was that Leaf?
So
was that Leaf who was the other elf that was speaking in Elvish?
I think Leaf he's either an elf or
whatever. One of the players stepped up and really engaged with that NPC.
Leaf definitely stepped up and spoke in Elvish.
It was poetic. I mean, like, I was like, man, some of the stuff he was saying was just phenom. So it was really cool to see that role play, that level of role play. But especially if you guys have already been playing for a year plus, I shouldn't be surprised. Really cool stuff.
We've had a past adventure. You might want to go back and watch one called Dream of the Dwarven. I've got it on my YouTube channel, the Dream of the Dwarven Seer, because Thraskin is our resident dwarf, and the funny part is because of the fact that it involves it's a very dwarven very dwarf driven story.
Yeah.
The entire party's trying to marry the guy off.
Oh, geez. Well, it sounds like there's a lot of dwarves in that one there too, I bet.
Oh my goodness, it was hysterical. And I've got so 4 of them are original members of the party: Lagamundo, Sal, Leaf, and Thraskin. We had one person who is an original member who was not able to make it. Thorn, also known as Wily Hobbit, filled in for the person who couldn't make it. And Sanius has been there for a while, but not since the beginning. We had somebody who was in like the first, I think it was just in the first adventure, didn't mesh with the group and with the game well. He was personality, and he decided to just step away. So
Rob, that's probably a great one to end on. As far as what group dynamics, we talked about having large groups. I should have asked this before, but like sometimes it's not always going to work. So how do you gracefully have a player exit a group, or how do you manage that as a castle keeper?
Well, I mean, the good news is on this particular end, from a story standpoint, they're part of an adventuring company. So
sure.
While they they have their own particular set groups, I've also had some of these characters run with other groups.
Yeah.
If needed, but it makes it a lot easier if something's just not working. And this was a personality conflict, but it never got really bad.
Right.
But let's put it this way, he left on his own. I didn't and I was not upset.
Yeah. So when that happens and maybe they don't leave on their own, I mean, have you had to kind of have those difficult conversations, and if so, how do you go about that?
I mean, first I just try to get I do want to kind of figure out what what's the issue, what's the real issue.
Sure.
First of all, I want to make sure that somebody's not just role playing a little too edgy.
Yeah.
They're staying in character. They're not doing this method acting thing where they're in character all the time. But it got to usually for me, I'm very easygoing as long as they're not causing real issues and they're not if they're not being belligerent.
Sure.
I don't. I'm okay, and as long as they're not, making the game. And the funny thing is, the game that he played in was fine. It was the first session we ever did.
Sure.
He was good in it, but it just realized. I think we realized early on that he was looking for something different. And I tell people, I was like, listen, not every game, not every game is for you. Sometimes
Yep.
even not every game from the same person running the games is for you.
Sure.
The campaign might not fit what you're looking for. The style of the game being played may not be what you're looking for, and that's fine. There is absolutely no shame saying that I'm looking for a different experience. I respect that. I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Here's your refund.
Well, you can't take offense to it because
right.
I've been in games, and I'll be honest with you. I one of the interesting things is I was kind of the forever DM for a long time because if I didn't run a game, there wasn't a game. I got to play since the pandemic started. I got to play a hell of a lot more. I played so many different games, different rule sets with different groups of people. But I've been in games, a couple of campaigns actually, where I was like, guys, I'm sorry, this just isn't working for me.
Yeah.
I'm looking for something different.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not enjoying the way, and again, it's just not, it's nothing personal. It's just, this isn't my style of game. I tried it. One of the things it's done is I think it's helped. I kind of laugh a little when people go the forever DM with like this badge of honor thing, because to me, playing in games, and there's nothing. I mean, if you're always the DM because no one else would be, that's fine. I mean, it's not bad if that just situation is forced to hand.
Yep,
that's fine. But playing in other games that other people are running has helped teach me what I do and do not like, and it helped me to basically get a better understanding for myself what works best for me. And as a game runner, as a DM, a castle keeper, chronicle keeper, whatever it is, whatever game, whatever rule set you're running, it is a lot easier to run a game if you're running the game that you want to play in. Because you're not trying to be something you aren't, and you will find your people. You'll find those players that respond to your type of game. Some of them may like it as a once in a while one-shot type thing. Some people may enjoy it as a full-on campaign. Sometimes people like to play multiple different styles. They might be playing two different campaigns, two vastly different styles because of the fact that they're different, and each one offers them something else. But for me, I understand better what annoyed me as a player, and it makes me more conscious of not doing those things, not railroading. I'm very big on player agency. I want my players to feel empowered to do things. If they've got suggestions, something that they like for their character, I'll find a way to work it. I'll find a way to work it in. Is a goal that their character might have, because that's just material for adventures. What the heck? I mean, I'm not turning down ideas. Take inspiration everywhere.
Right.
And when you take inspiration everywhere, your players should better be among that inspiration.
Oh, I love it. Well, and really it goes back to what you said too, and to tie it all home here for us as we're wrapping up. The metric for success of if you're doing a good job or not, you kind of said it already, Rob, is if they come back, and if you got people coming back and showing up and getting excited, that's the ultimate mark that you're doing something right behind the keeper's screen.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's funny. Time gets away from you, especially when you have like a lot of stuff going on. And I work full time, and my players are working most of them are working full time.
Yep.
And you got family stuff and whatever. And if I don't actively, I knew I didn't have the the mental bandwidth and just really the energy to run a weekly game. so this is why I kind of set this campaign up where you can have multiple parties. They can have multiple characters in the campaign if they want to,
Yep.
so that they can play at different levels with different groups and so on and so forth. So that we would set up adventures when we were able to. It didn't
Yeah.
we didn't have to worry about a weekly game and the scheduling boss and such. And if I forget to schedule something, one of them is going to, it's like, or when are we playing next? It's like, so that's a good feeling.
Ding, ding, ding.
That's a great. And suddenly, if I don't respond soon enough, I got three others saying,
Yeah, like, yeah. When are we playing next, Rob? But
let's go.
that's actually a great question, Rob. So tell me, you've got obviously it's like you're working 10 jobs. So what's all going on right now for you? You're streaming on Twitch. Are you restreaming on YouTube, or what's your streaming schedule look like? Are you uploading? Like, tell people about what you're doing.
So I mean, I've been a lot better about it lately. The holidays, I was okay. I try to do a 1 hour stream every Thursday. Just basically following after the Troller Games stream on Thursdays.
It's an easy way to get a raid, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, well, yeah. And it's funny. I more do it at that time because because Lord Gazumba has his Thursday night game.
Yep.
And again, Jay's been really good to me over the years. So I pay it forward. I normally rate. I'll rate into him pretty much every time because he's the leader of the Greyhawk Creative stream team. I think there's maybe 15 of us now.
Wow.
But it's a block where there's nothing going on. It's a block that works for me from a scheduling perspective. So
Yeah.
I'll do an hour to an hour and a half on given topics. Some of it will just be, some of it will be like working on the campaign. Some of it will be just discussing a particular thing. I've had Ultra Magnus from the Troller Games Discord as a guest on several things where we've discussed different Castles and Crusades topics. It's a hodgepodge. I try to do it. I'm trying to be better about doing it every single Thursday.
So do you stream it under just chatting, Rob, or do you what do you categorize it as?
I stream it under tabletop role playing games.
Okay, tabletop RPGs. Nice.
Yeah, I like to keep that. I like to keep that consistent. Some people have said, well, dude, under D&D you're going to have things. I was like, I'm not looking. I'm not.
Yeah.
I have no consideration to partner or whatever. I'm not looking to become big. I don't have. I'm a one person shop.
Sure.
And honestly, if I wasn't a bit of a a tech, if I wasn't a tech geek, I wouldn't be able to pull this off.
Oh yeah, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. So are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing on YouTube? Are you doing anything on YouTube?
YouTube is basically where I upload all my stuff. After I export it all from Twitch to YouTube so that I have it there. Forever. After it's gone from Twitch
For your archive.
Yes, for my archive, and it also allows me to arrange it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where all my exports go.
So primarily, if people are looking for a little bit more of PhantomNJ, they need to be going on to Twitch.tv. Do you have your own slash or anything? Is it PhantomNJ?
It's slash PhantomNJ.
Awesome. Ooh, is the NJ? Is it New Jersey or what does NJ stand for?
It is. It is New Jersey.
There it is. That was the exclusive we were looking for. I'm sure you've said it a bunch of times before, but man, we go for the hard-hitting questions here on Behind the Keeper's Screen.
Yeah, I am New Jersey, born and raised.
I love it. I can't, I don't even hear much of the accent.
Yeah, I don't have. It's kind of funny. You're not the first person to tell me that. Here's the funny thing. I grew up just outside New York City. I've moved further inland since then. I'm still in northern New Jersey.
Sure.
But I literally grew up within walking distance of the Hudson River, right across from Manhattan. And I cannot do any. I can't do. I'm half Italian. I'm Italian on my mother's side.
All right.
I cannot do the stereotypical Italian Sopranos accent. I can't do a New York I can't do a Brooklyn or Bronx accent.
Oh, man.
I can't do. I grew up watching Bugs Bunny, and I still can't do any of those accents. I mean,
Well, Phantom, we still love your normal voice. That's what people are here. That's what they're tuning in for. And your Southern Dwarfs. That one too. Yeah. Any final thoughts before we end the behind the keeper screen here, Phantom?
Listen, I play all the games, and I be the first to admit, I love Castles Crusades. Over the last 3 years, I've played approximately 60 different TTRPGs at least once. Most of them, probably 50 or so of those, I played for the very first time. 50, maybe 55, honestly, for the very first time.
Mm-hmm.
Try all the different things. It's okay to have a favorite. There's nothing. Whether it's Castles Crusades, whether it's 5e, whether it's Pathfinder 2e, whatever it is you enjoy playing, but try all the different things. Find out what it is you like. As a game runner, try the different things, because you'll find that there may be something from another game that you like that you want to bring over. Don't limit yourself to what's in the books, both from a player standpoint and a castle keeper standpoint.
I love it. So that is definitely wise words from an amazing, accomplished castle keeper here, PhantomNJ, also known as CK Robert. Rob, thanks so much for being here today.
Johnny, thank you so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this.
Oh, me too. Me too. All right, everybody. Thanks so much for watching Behind the Keeper's Screen. We appreciate. We need to figure. I still have not figured out the sign off, Robert. So we need to figure one out. I think we've got roll high. We've got I think Professor DM says may all your rolls be 20s. So I can't use that one. So we'll have to figure. Oh. Let's say keeping it real. Thanks for keep it on the keep on keeping on. That's what we're going to do. That's the ending. You were here for our ending. So here we go. Here it is. Yeah. Here it is. This is we'll try it out. So here it goes. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching Behind the Keeper's Screen. Keep on keeping on.
Keeping on.